Morning, everybody. My name is Mike Mannix. I'm a founding partner at Arica Consulting. We're a Paris-based consulting organisation, one of three founding partners. Glad to be facilitating the conversation today with a fantastic panel that we brought together. The subject's redefining the TMC and booking tour landscape in Asia Pacific. First, I'd like to set the backdrop. For decades, the relationship between the corporation and its TMC and technology suppliers has followed a pretty predictable script. The TMC providing the service, the third-party booking tool providing the booking interface, and the GDS sitting quietly in the background. Today, we're in a period of transformation, and I've heard it said during the course of this event that it's unprecedented, and I don't necessarily agree with that. This industry is beset with transformation. It's constant, right? On one side, we're seeing the consolidation of TMCs, the big four become the big three. And we're seeing new alliances forming, GBT with SAP Concur, Amadeus acquiring 70% of Skylink. On the other hand, we're seeing technology-first disruptors that are no longer just agencies, rather they're cloud-native platforms, and their booking apps look like consumer apps. The most interesting shift, though, is happening beneath the bonnet. TMCs are moving away from pure integrators of external third-party software and are instead pouring millions of dollars into proprietary technology stacks. The strategy being to own the code, to own the data, and to own the traveler. For the global travel manager, this innovation is a double-edged sword. It brings with it the risk of technology lock. It promises a friction-free experience for the traveler, but it introduces further complexity in balancing cost control, duty of care, and the fragmented landscape of content. Today, our panel is here to answer three questions. Is the industry's evolution driven by strategic choice or by survival? How do I navigate the decisions and then implement change? Third question is, should I even care? I mean, it's APAC, and APAC's different to the rest of the world, right? So we brought together a great panel for you today from three parts of the value chain. Team, would you like to introduce yourselves, your companies, and your roles? Meena?
Hi everyone, my name is Meena Salim. I'm the APAC travel manager for JBT Morel. Travel for us is just not a function, it's the engine that keeps our travelers connected to our customers. I'm super excited to be here today with my fellow travel experts who really understand the magic and the madness of keeping travelers moving.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Yihui, and I'm the regional travel manager for Grundfos. And I think, same to what Meena has mentioned, the travel function is an enabler for our business to ensure our guys reach out to their clients to ensure that our business keeps going around the world. So, yeah, I think this is a very important part to ensure the business gets going.
So I'm Natasha Padmaraj. I'm Regional Vice President for Asia Pacific and the Middle East for Altor. Really excited to be here today with my fellow panelists. We've been having very interesting conversations over the course. But that's what we do. We have conversations. We speak to buyers. We speak to tech companies. We speak to GDSs. We bring the ecosystem together, and we're really excited to be here today.
Thanks, Mike. Wonderful to be here. I'm Nikunj Agrawal. I'm the founder and CEO of Zenmer. Zenmer is a corporate travel platform, specifically an OBT and agent desktop globally. We are present in over 28 countries. We really like what's going on right now in the world with specific to AI, right? People think it's a real big buzzword. It's just theatrics. Nothing's happening in the background, and we are trying to challenge that as well, and do something that's really meaningful for the traveler, and at the same time, not trying to just do theatrics. So, yeah, it's really exciting time. Thanks to BDN for also having us here. Wonderful to be with the co-panelists.
Thanks a lot, team. So I'm going to start off with a what's keeping you awake at night question. So over the last, two of you are buyers, one a TMC, one a tech provider. You all bring different perspectives about what's happening in this very dynamic environment. What's changed most for you in the last couple of years? And what's keeping you guys up at night? Mina.
Thanks, Mike. I think the biggest change for us is moving and transitioning to a travel provider that has really unified our travel program, moving it from a fragmented setup to a more unified. 2 years ago, we made the decision globally to assess. Sorry, I take that back. We looked at what was good for our travelers. Our travelers are based, so they're engineers. They don't travel into the business district. We don't have an average trip day of a day or a two. Our average trip day is around 3 to 4. They work long hours. So what they needed was a tool. We needed to empower them with good technology, good tools. So we went out to the market and saw that obviously not every sort of solution would fit us, but we saw the best opportunity with this new provider that we're with. The greatest thing about it is that it wasn't just a glossy UI. It was more that it actually does work. The self-management, the back-end system, it kind of all flowed. And that's a real huge priority for us. The travel experience, the reporting, I think is also very, very important. Data is one of the things that we needed visibility on globally. And as you know, APAC comes with a lot of challenges. Payments, content, NDC content. So this new provider has really unified and redefined how we actually see a TMC. Thanks.
Thank you. I think what's really keeping me awake at night is, I don't know, I don't speak for others, but for me, it's a very generic problem. It's content distributions. We know, NDC has been in the industry for more than 10 years, but it has been an ongoing topic, and it's becoming more prominent in the recent days, where we see the difference, the difference in product offering between the usual artifacts versus the current NDC. And I think with information being widely available online right now, and travelers, especially in my company, I think most travelers are getting smarter by days. They know where to look for alternatives, and that's where they can go online to see what are the differences we are paying. And that's where they will come to question you and say, why are we paying the difference? And that really posed a question to me. I would say a challenge to me, and say that, what am I going to do to help these travelers? What am I going to do to help my company? These are some potential savings that we are losing out.
So where do you see the responsibility lie for data aggregation and content aggregation? Whose job is it?
Wow, what a question. Thank you, Mike. But I would say content aggregation will be one of the key link, or rather a key resolution to what I'm facing right now. And I think this is not just a content aggregation point of view, but I think we need the help from a lot of parties, from the supplier end, from the intermediary end, and from our buyers end. We all have different parts to play. We have different roles to play, and I'm sure this is something we need to make in between for everyone to go. Yeah, so
that's a fantastic politically correct answer. Well done.
Thank you very much.
So that's an interesting one, because content aggregation is something that's constantly being talked about in various markets, and including in Asia Pacific. And then there's the big question, who really holds that P&R? When, a crisis hits, when something happens, you need an immediate reaction from your TMC. From a TMC perspective, who holds that P&R with content aggregation? And I think that's the biggest disruption that's happening right now in terms of tech-first led technologies, companies out there. There's a whole marketing spin that happens when new technology comes out. And for some of you that were there in Gabe's session, you would have heard, we see we see demos of new technology, but do we really see it in production? And I think that's an important conversation that we have with buyers constantly. The other bit that I think I find interesting is the shift, because global travel programs have traditionally always been kind of US and European led. What we're seeing is more global travel programs are involving regional stakeholders to share what's working for them. In Asia Pacific, with the travel spends really growing, I think that's a relevant conversation, because if that's not really looked at, then the gap's going to continue to increase. Compliance is going to continue to be a challenge, and we're gonna go around, getting in new technology, but is it really going to make it easier for your traveler that's on the road? And those are the questions that really stand out and are relevant when it comes to the Asia Pacific region. So that's kind of what I'm seeing, and that's what's keeping me up at night to solve for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I also quite resonate with the co-panelists. There are specifically two things that keep us at night, at least in this year. First is obviously 100% content aggregation, because when I said we are live in 28 countries, we just don't mean, okay, somebody uses us, books something like 1 or 2 bookings. We really care about in which country we are live in, and how much content we are able to show to the consumer or the traveler that's really out there where they are comparing as well, right? Because if they don't see a specific airline or a hotel chain in the corporate booking tool, they're going to think the technology sucks, right? Excuse me for my language, but and when he raises a concern, they would also think that the TMC is at fault, or maybe the buyer hasn't made the right choice. So we make sure that when we go to a specific country, we are really going direct. Content activation, integrating with the local low-cost carriers, bringing the hotel chains on board, so that the real corporate negotiated rates are also brought on board when you integrate directly, and not just doing, integration with aggregators, for scale. So that's really important, along with NDC as well. The second thing is, specific to AI. So for almost decades, we've seen that online booking adoption equaled using the booking engine, right? Using point-and-click systems. But since AI has come in, it's all about having conversations, right? We all use ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, right? And anybody who's in APAC knows that it's a very big manual servicing sort of a market, right? And travelers like conversing on WhatsApp, on Slack and Teams and emails to get their stuff booked. And if you really compare that with how it's happening in AI, it's again conversations, right? So how are we looking at the new normal, where we feel that even the AI conversations, if we think that as an online booking adoption, I think it's going to be really easy from that perspective, to really drive up the online booking adoption, for this market as well. So really, we think that AI is a very good answer, and we'll talk about more on how we've defined some use cases and been successful with some case stories as well on that front. So really, optimizing on the AI front to really for this market is definitely keeping up as night as well.
Thank you. So really, to summarize, we've heard user experience is a priority. The technology, the evolution of technology and content are the priorities, right? So they're the things. If we were to summarize all of that, you've sort of all landed on the same thing. Thank you. I'm going to move on to a second question, which is around innovation versus established ecosystems. And Meena, you're managing a very complex multinational program, right? And that is just about to move into a new phase of change, from what I've understood. So when you think about innovation, so how do you think about it, about innovation and then bringing innovation into your program? What's the sort of the process that you go through? Are you, as an organization, resistant to it? Is it something that, as an organization, culturally you embrace? Is it something that you're out there looking for? What's the footing that you're working from? And then how do you go about bringing that into your program?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. So I think with innovation, it has to work in real life. So basically, it has to have the full sort of integration where we're talking about the content, the data, and the risk side of things. Our business, our travelers, it's non-negotiable when it comes to usability. As I said before, they want to feel that they have the right tools when they're traveling. So the user interface, although it's important, the integration part has to also be included for it to be a complete innovation. So if it doesn't plug into the data and the risk side, then it just creates another problem for the business.
Is that, when it comes to your organisation, is that a challenging path to tread? Because there's lots of bright, shiny stuff out there that catches your eye, but it addresses maybe the user experience and everything behind it. It just creates a whole lot of unintended consequences and pain points, right? So how do you kind of assess that?
So when we were assessing the new sort of travel provider, we actually had the ability to test quite heavily to understand, what are the key challenges, what are the problems before we actually implemented. And I'm not talking about creating a simple booking. We had very intense testing for close to 60 days on a sandbox, and it actually cleared most of our fees, as I should say, and it gave us a real sort of like sense of calmness that this actually does work. So yes, it's very important to assess before you jump into anything, especially with innovation and assessing new TMCs.
Thank you. We talk about consumer style platforms being the future. How do you see it? Is that true, or is that just the latest thing? We're going to go back to traditional legacy systems, ways of doing things, ways of working, or is there really momentum there to move in this direction? And just speaking specifically about this region, actually, just knowing its constraints and opportunities.
Thanks, Mike. I would say this is a tough question to answer. I'll be honest.
That's a second tough question to
Yeah,
ask
it's
you,
a
mate.
second
Sorry.
tough question. Thanks for the tough question, Mike. I really love it. But anyway, it's not. I would say it's the future, not now, but the future. I will foresee consumer apps coming into the corporate travel program soon. How soon? I don't know. It depends on how ready they are when they can link up with the available content, when they can link up with the TMC, when they can provide the duty of care. A lot of things we are looking at. The duty of care, content, the distribution of corporate and ancillaries. I think this all boils down on how ready these consumer apps are. And of course, in Asia Pacific, it's a very complex region, I would say. The Northern Asia have their own tools. The Southern side, we have their own tools. And how do we integrate is another question. I think it's really unlike in the US or in Europe, where, there can be one tool, or at least one tool that can unify all this content together. But in Asia, I would say it's very much complex.
So I'm going to ask you a third tough question.
Oh my God, no.
Ready? Does it really matter? I mean, does consistency really matter? Can you not abandon this standardization model, which is what's out there, and go for best in class, best in breed? Does that make sense? As long as all the wiring stitched together behind the scenes, if you move past the user experience and you're predicated on being able to get data and tick the duty of care box and all those other things, does the UX really matter at the end of the day?
No, the UX doesn't matter at all. I would say, okay, or rather I'll speak on my behalf or in my travelers. I think it doesn't really matter how beautiful your UX is. They don't care. They won't come to me and say, oh, look, they updated a pretty logo on the top right-hand corner. It looks so nice on my tool. No, they don't care. They'll just come to me and say, look, I can't search my flight. or I can't find the search box. How do I search for hotel? How do I rent a car? So I think for me, or at least for me, the rule of thumb for a booking tool is it must be as simple as it can be. Sorry. The thing is, I think the objective is I just want to book a trip, expense it, that's it, and I go on a trip.
Keep it simple. Yeah. Natasha, I'm going to throw you a tough question now, if you don't mind.
Of course.
Spread the love. The biggest TMCs are now building, and all TMCs actually are building proprietary data kernels and program pillars. Are you building these to truly innovate for the customer, or are you building walled gardens and to make it harder for customers to ever leave you?
That's a great question. I'm going to start with saying we're not building, we're not developing, we're not trying to change and own the code. But yes, you are right. It is happening. There's tech-first led TMCs that are doing that. There's legacy TMCs that want to own the code. Walled gardens is an interesting one because I feel like it's existed in a different shape and form even previously. So the GDSs traditionally was a difficult one to first pivot out of, and I think TMCs were in that walled garden as well. But that's changing in terms of content fragmentation and the way that's getting delivered as well. And I think with NDC coming along, that was the intent. What that does is it also changes the way we deliver to clients and what they need, right? Walled gardens in the TMC space also existed from again, TMCs wanting to not just book, but make sure you expense with them and make sure you use payment solutions with them. And that was kind of a walled garden in itself. I think the difference that I see right now and the pivot that I see right now is there's more solutions out there and the walled gardens are looking very different. No one's trying to copy one another. Everyone's trying to do it differently. So is it for customer stickiness so that they don't move away? Well, I think every business is aspiring for customer stickiness, including, I'd say, the travel managers do not want to go through the ordeal of implementing a new program and then having to kind of unfurl the program in the next couple of years. But I think what's increasingly important is, I'm going to say, if TMCs aren't looking at adaptive ecosystems, technology is going to become redundant soon enough, and the technology you're creating today is going to become redundant soon enough, and then you're not going to be able to innovate fast enough for kind of the changing landscape. And I think that's what's important, because these walled gardens could probably work for programs that remain consistent for a long period of time, which aren't flexible, that's difficult to actually change overnight. But if a customer needs to leave because they do not see innovation, if they do not see the content that they need, if they do not see the support that they need, they will move one way or the other. They may not move immediately because it is difficult to kind of move out of that, but they will move if they have to. So that's kind of what I have to say for that.
Thank you. Great answer. Thank you. Nikunj, you're selling the AI first dream.
Another tough question incoming.
But the reality of corporate travel is that it's still grounded on 40-year-old tech, right? So the plumbing is old. So how do you think about innovation? Are you building on top of that tech? Are you building around that tech? Or are you just making that tech redundant and doing something completely different? How do you think about the existing ecosystem and really transforming it into something that's modern, contemporary, and customer-centric?
Yeah, no, I love the question. Obviously, since decades, we've seen products built around the GDS. When we started, we want to treat every content channel, any third-party application just as, just another channel. We don't want to build on top of anything. We basically built our technology from ground up, from scratch, with microservices and open APIs. What that really means is we can onboard multiple GDSs, multiple TMCs, low-cost carriers, hotel chains, NDC, aggregators, Expedia, Booking.com, what have you, and if you want to make changes online, doesn't matter. Oh, it's not a GDS. You cannot make changes online. Oh, it's low-cost carrier. You have to go to their website and do the changes. No, we've built the platform in such a way it's standardized for any content source, right? So we have our own standardization layer and our own order management system, right? So NDC is coming up with offers and orders, and we are already ready with that. That irrespective of the booking source, your traveler can really have, even if the booking is made offline in the GDS by a travel consultant, the traveler should be able to see that booking on the go on the mobile app, right? That really doesn't happen. If a traveler emails, sends an email to the TMC, I want this getting booked, he or she should be able to see all the booking channels, all the content sources, irrespective of the GDS, LCC, or NDC channel. They should be policy compliant, specific to the approval workflow. All of that, becomes really slow with emails. So what we do is we have a AI layer that would automatically detect the profile of the traveler using their email. We know what their policy is. We know who the approver is. We know what corporate rates apply to that specific client, and reply automatically instead of waiting to send the quote after 15 minutes or 20 minutes, so that the traveler actually sees policy compliant quotes. And they can just click on book, and there you go. The data feeds right into the reporting system. The booking is on the go, because ultimately it's part of our tech stack, even if we are using AI. So yeah, I mean, when we own the order management system and build from ground up, not by depending on third-party applications, you really can sustain much long term and not be a walled garden.
So to sort of summarize your answer, you're not saying that the existing infrastructure is redundant at this point. You're building with it. That's the summary answer, right? So you're actually taking GDS content, you're relying on the GDS for certain parts of your business, but you're building your own tech. And I wanted to get a bit of a download from you, but make it just a couple of minutes if you can, on how you see, where you see AI in the value chain, because again, that's a massive question, right? It can be, it's all the way through it potentially, but where is it today and where does it go? Where does it play?
Yeah, I mean, specific to the GDS question, right? Yeah, so you're right. I mean, we just treat GDS as just another content channel, right? I mean, it basically is just aggregating multiple airlines. So even ourselves, we are focusing on directly integrating into full service carriers for the NDC content, right? So essentially, we don't even maybe need the GDS for the top 5 carriers for a TMC, right? So our clients are directly telling us that why don't you really integrate directly, so that we have less dependency on a specific aggregator or a GDS, right? So we just treat them as just another content channel, right? Regarding AI, we actually took a very hard route. Okay, so most of the tools out there, they are going in the markets where there is more than 90% online booking adoption, right? It's super easy to spin up AI there, and people are already really tech savvy, and more than tech savvy, they are more comfortable in wanting to book themselves rather than handing it off to a travel consultant, right? It's easy to spin up an AI in that market. We thought, okay, APAC is anyway our home market, although we do have live customers in the US, UK, and Europe. Why don't we actually do something meaningful for a traveler in this market, right? Because they love manual servicing, right? So we actually went where the travelers are, where they are actually sending emails, sending WhatsApp, Slacks, and Teams messages. So we are actually automating those conversations so that the quotes are not getting sent after an hour, but in seconds. And if they are actually, let's say if a traveler doesn't require an approval, right? Why do they have to still wait for half an hour? They get the quote in 60 seconds and they click on book, and there in 45 seconds, the booking confirmation is in their inbox.
So you're basically meeting the traveler where they're at.
Exactly. That's the idea we're trying to go after.
So give us a 1 minute tech entrepreneur's view of AI in travel in 5 years' time.
Well, I strongly believe that we are going to be on voice interactions with AI agents 100%. I mean, we're already building for that. And we already have our customers telling us, hey, why don't you add voice notes in WhatsApp? So that, because especially in APAC, I don't know, the Gen Z here loves doing voice notes, right, on WhatsApp. So you just drop in a voice note to the Zenmer number on WhatsApp saying, hey, I want to go from Singapore to Bangkok on this date. I prefer my usual Singapore Airlines. I know we know the number of the traveler. We can detect the profile and the policy, and then just reply them with the quote saying, okay, these are the 3 best options. Click on book, and it's booked, right? So basically, the answer is just everybody's going to meet where the traveler is, and the world is moving towards voice interactions and voice notes. So 100% is not going to replace the booking engines for sure. I don't want to be that futuristic and ambitious. I think voice is definitely coming. I think at least in the 5-year term, right? And content aggregation is still not solved. So I think that piece also becomes hopefully better as well.
How do you see the role of agentic AI? And I'll just sort of decode that for everybody. Agentic AI is basically it replaces humans in the value chain. So we're talking about functions like booking travel, changing travel, being the 24-hour emergency service, and then we think about the analytical layer, talking about being predictive and pushing solutions out to travelers before they even occur, cancellations, that sort of stuff. So again, I'm going to throw to you for this because you have a view. We know it's coming, but when and I think how.
I think in some form, if I give an example, it's already here. So what we do on WhatsApp is, let's say I'm here in Singapore, right? And my flight is at 9 p.m. and I am getting delayed because of my meeting. We already detect the location of the traveler because they've allowed us to check the location, right? Of course. And based on the time that's between my current location and the airport, if the traveler is actually going to get delayed, we do send a push notification unsolicitedly, and saying that, okay, here are the 3 options that are policy compliant. Do you want to pick one of them and maybe choose a later flight, right? So these sort of behaviors are actually not driven by a human travel consultant, but by an agentic AI solution, right? So these sort of prompts is what we are going after as well. Also, just on the go, how can you quickly message an AI agent, hey, can I cancel my ticket that's tonight? Can I rebook for tomorrow? And we sort of give a nudge that, do you want to also extend your hotel night as well, right? So those sort of things where it's without the human intervention, you would say agentic AI is definitely coming. So this is what is already happening, and we're not the only ones doing it. We see it happening in the US as well. And but especially it's really interesting to do this in APAC because they like doing conversations anyway. Yeah.
Yep. You want to add?
Yeah, I'd love to add to that from a TMC perspective. So being tech-enabled is going to be absolutely critical as we move forward. And some of what we're seeing AI or agentic AI probably hoping to solve for in the future is those elements of the business that we don't really actually get paid for, or we need consultants for it. And it's sometimes
So what's an example of that?
Can I have an alternative route? I don't really need alternative 3 options. I've just spent some time sending out 3 options, and then the traveler says, nah, I'm going to stick to my original flight. I know this is happening. But agentic AI would probably send that over as saying, this is a disruption. Do you want to take an alternative route? Probably send that, proactively. And that's great because we're not going to get paid for that option sending. The way it's commercially designed today is we're getting paid for the transaction processing.
But you build that into your pricing model, though. You build those types of eventualities into your pricing model where you're providing quotes, and yes, there's a lot of unpaid work, but it's built in there somewhere, right?
Love it. So that's actually what we talk about. Provided travel managers are also willing to bring in the value that we're bringing in, more and more RFPs are very cost sensitive, and they're constantly trying to kind of, bring down those margins further for us. But we still need people to do that. We still have salaries to pay for that. So there's a lot that's expected, but then the value when we're putting in those price points, there's somebody else coming in and saying, I'll do it free of cost. And it's like, no, you can't do that free of cost if you actually have a TMC that's
well, nothing's free.
That for you.
I mean, let's
exactly.
be real.
There's always a cost somewhere, right? So these kind of, I'd say certain processes that's kind of expected, or the travelers would prefer to have kind of a more proactive approach. It is helpful to have technology kind of support you for that, including the agents. If somebody wants to have a conversation and ask for that, I mean, to an agent, including for our agents to be able to quickly search and be able to offer those options.
So if I'm to summarize, there's a cost of delivery benefit there,
Yep.
right? Because you're taking low value tasks away from people, and they're focusing on other things, but it also gives you the ability to take people cost out of the business potentially, right? I mean, that's
Well,
I've heard that said before, and I think that's should be an objective, right? That's every business's
that is
goal, right? Is to take cost out. Let's be real.
And the thing is that the value for people cost is going to be different. So we're not going to be trying to solve for technical issues, but you do need to have tech forward staff. You need to bring in the value for your traveler when he's on trip. On trip, when something happens and he wants to speak to somebody, or when he's trying to plan for a trip, especially in this market, and it's a complex market, and I need a visa, or I need, I have 2 stops that I'm going somewhere, and what is a good option? AI might provide you the options, but you sometimes want to have a conversation, and that conversation's with a human being. So we're still going to have people, but it's going to be different from the value that we're bringing in that program, and that's the way I see it.
That conversation is going to be with a human being, not Alexa, is it?
Exactly. Oh, you know what that's like.
So sorry, can I quickly add something?
Of course.
Yeah. So I love what Natasha said, right? It's not about replacing people, right? It is, whenever we are looking at all of these headlines all over the world saying AI is going to replace humans, right? It's not, that's not going to happen. They're going to replace it's going to replace people that don't use AI, right? That's the underlying thing we've established already, right? So a lot of times we've seen that customers, when they are talking to an AI agent, it's called Xenia. Zenmer is the platform, but our AI agent is called Xenia. So whenever they're talking to Xenia, they basically not every time would end the conversation of bookings by just only talking to AI. They would say, can I please talk to a travel consultant, right? So we do hand off, right, to a human agent, and that's where the value of the TMC is still pretty relevant. You can't fully replace it, because a trust element would be completely lost otherwise, right? You'll always be like in the stress, oh, was it really booked correctly? Did I miss something? Are there 2 stops? And sorry, just one more thing I would like to add. We are already seeing, you asked the question about what stuff is happening after 5 years, right? From a commercial perspective, what we are seeing already happening now is going to become more prevalent is, instead of going for a per trip fee, okay, I think we are already seeing per conversation fees, okay, like per conversation. We are already having this in the contracts, okay? So because specifically if you talk to AI, right, I mean, it would take 15 minutes to book a trip, right? From the air, hotel, car rental, approvals. With an AI, it would just take maybe 2 conversations, just back and forth, right? So why would I want to charge such a high fee, right? I mean, from a tech company perspective, at least, right? So we are already seeing per conversation fees, and when that handoff is to a human agent, there could be another element from a TMC being charged for that specific service as well. So there's everything for everybody in the value chain.
I think if I was a buyer, my head would explode if I saw per conversation fees, to be
conversation
honest.
is
But
crazy.
it's more cost effective.
I
know it
understand.
sounds
I understand
weird.
the cost benefit of it, but just think about the reconciliation of the thing. And you had 5 conversations at 20 cents a conversation. It just does your head in, actually. So I'm not dismissing it
totally
as a
feel
pricing mechanism, but it's yeah.
I mean,
We're talking about simplification before. That's at very odds with that, really.
100% I agree with you. It does sound very scary, and specifically with regards to reconciliation, 100%. But we've seen it succeeding with a few clients already, and it's much more cheaper, for the end client as well. Because ultimately the costs in the back end were of the AWS servers or all of those cloud infrastructure, right? Over here, it's just a few tokens, right?
Yeah.
So actually our costs are reducing in some sense as well, right? So we're able to provide some services in a cheaper cost, and ultimately if the cost saving is there, you're okay to take a little bit of a scarier path, if there is proper guidance and proper data feed handoffs are already
it's absolutely
happening.
predicated on a lot of things. That's for sure. Yeah. Look, I'm going to move the conversation on. We've got about 15 to run. I just wanted to, mainly this is directed to the buyers on the panel. I wanted to ask your insights and for you to share your insights with the audience on this question of service consistency between owned and partner markets, right? Because this is very operative to the TMC and technology space, right? Very operative. I mean, does it matter? I mean, in this region, does what you get in country A to country B to country C, does it really matter? Is that service consistency something that's critically important, what you're looking for as buyers, because it dampens the noise, or it ticks some SLA boxes and things like that, or it's not really important? How do you see it?
Sure. I think third-party agencies is the talk of the town at the moment. It is very important, speaking on behalf of our organisation, that there is consistency with the service. When there is third-party agencies involved, it creates a lot of sort of gaps through the SLAs, different online booking tool, different servicing, different response time to crisis. It creates a bit of a headache because the traveller feels in some markets invisible, and in other markets fully supported. So it's like really not unified. It's more unfair for the traveller. That's how I see it. So basically, when we were assessing for our company what's important, we decided that not to go for the APAC region with third-party agencies. And I know you're going to think that's crazy because basically there's such a huge cost involved with point of sale. That was something we decided to take upon because obviously the volume wasn't as huge, but at the same time, we wanted our travellers to feel like their colleagues in Vietnam, their colleagues in Japan, Hong Kong, are all on the same platform and they're getting the same service, getting the same itineraries, same e-tickets, same everything. And that is very powerful for us. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. I agree. I agree with Mina that there definitely will be gap, between wholly owned versus service countries, and we operate slightly different from what Mina's company do. We have actually, deployed our TMC actually deployed their service companies to service our in-market travelers as well. Of course, when we look for solutions, we look for a solution that can fit these markets. Maybe not to the max, but at least maybe 50 to 75%. Actually, it's working. So there's not much difference of the experience when they are booking. Probably the outlook of the tool, it might be older, but at least they're getting the same experience as what the rest of the countries are having. But of course, some of the offerings, I would have to admit that some of these service partners, they don't have in terms of technology advance. They may not be up to where, for example, what Singapore, what Hong Kong, what Australia are having. And maybe in terms of the SLA, they might be a bit slower and all, but all in all, we just feel that we just want someone local, not because they know their people, but of course, in terms of content, again, I'm always coming back to content. They need their content. Some countries are very dependent on low-cost carriers and all, same in my company. So I think they need their local content to work.
Thank you. Natasha, do you have a view on that? When you're thinking about program design for your customers, and there's differences between owned and partner markets, right?
Yep.
What's the narrative you overlay with that? And do you set the customers up with to expect inconsistencies, or do you try and drive a centralization and try and drive consistency there with what you're designing for them?
So I love this question because I breathe it almost every day. So first of all, I just want to start with there is no TMC And there is no tech first led TMC. Sorry, I keep getting that wrong, probably the way they phrase it, but that really wholly owns in every single market around the world. That does not exist. And so if that's being sold out there, it does not exist. That technology might work in certain markets. In certain markets, it's dependent on local tech anyway. It's just kind of, I don't know, marketed differently, I'd say. But partner markets, why are they relevant for definitely our business? It's the cultural fluency that we're constantly seeing that customers need. And it depends on the size of the business that you have in this region. So if you have a more standardized program, which is centric towards maybe markets that are highly reliant on just GDS content, sure, you can offer kind of a standardized approach and standard consistency in delivery. You can have a call center and tech just only, if you may. But if your program is more complex in the region, it touches more markets which have complex content in the way that comes in, you do need the cultural fluency. And that's not only with who are you speaking to or who's connecting with you. It goes down to content. It goes down to regulatory requirements in that market. It goes down to paperwork that's required during, visa processing. And so how do we bring in the consistency that a customer is looking for? I think our goal when we're speaking to customers is understanding for that customer that has that complex program, what are they trying to solve for really? And can I hit those main themes? 90% of the time, it's about, I want my traveler to feel safe while they're on a trip. And I want to make sure that while they're on a trip, they have somebody to speak to back in the local language. And so I do need that. I need that they're speaking to somebody in the local language. They do look for technology scalability, but I think the way we do it, at least at our end, is we scale our technologies in collaboration with our in-country partners. We've got great partners in the region. We've got great partners globally. Our collaboration is both ways. So we bring technology to those markets, and these are partners who are really embedded with us to really use our technologies as well. So wherever possible, we try to scale technologies, especially for data reporting.
As a business, do you try and impose a certain set of technologies on your networks, on your partners, or how do you deal with that? Because that's often the criticism, right? Is using different tech, and there's different experiences. They vary widely by market. So some TMCs have a stack that they push out to their network and say, use this. Do you guys have that approach, or and do you see that as the best approach, I would say?
So I say I'm going to say that
give us an evaluation.
Yeah, so I'm going to give you an evaluation of really how it works for us, right? It's really listening to the customer and what they need. So first of all, we work with credible agencies in each market, make sure that they all go through due diligence, and there is that basic SLA that everybody is definitely adhering to. So our operational structures to make sure that that happens.
So the SLA is the backbone, is it? So as long as the SLA's hit, how it's done is kind of below it's behind the scenes, and it's below the...
Yes, I was just getting to the tech question there. But on the technology side, again, we've got common technology that we can scale out and push to the partners, and the partners are actually willing to look at what's that technology because it is in their market right now. So they're open to investing and collaborating with us because it does bring in the business for them in this market. But they do have their own technology in market as well. And sometimes you have a customer that's probably with a local agency today in this market and is keen to work with just local tech and doesn't want anything global. So we've got that option too. But do we have consistent technology? As much as we can deploy consistent technology, absolutely. But I'm going to tell you, it's not just about bringing in the technology. It's about support. So what we also do well is we provide the support for the technology that we're trying to scale out there in the regions so that when we're getting it out there to market, partners are feeling empowered to be actually able to roll that out to customers as well. So that's the important part behind kind of a technology rollout as well.
Thank you. Good answer. Nikun, I'm going to go to you about this question of consistency. And the idea of booking tools and workflows and so on is to make the experience frictionless and easy, right? That's the concept of it. But the way workflows and tools are set up, they're designed, there's lots of no's along the way, or there's lots of justifications along the way, right? That's the truth of it. So how do you see that? How do you see the tools and the booking channels becoming much more frictionless? Because that's got these 4 big blocks of things in the industry that don't talk to each other, and it creates problems. So how do you see that? How do you see taking the friction out of the value chain?
Yeah, I mean, I first of all, I really believe that the problem isn't the partner model. I think it is 100% wholly owned TMCs also give away different tools, for different regions, right? And for a longest times, coming to the booking channel space, right, we've seen the products from the West work great there and not in the Asia Pacific, and vice versa as well. Products with highest amount of usage in APAC region, don't work great in the West. So we've really tried to thrive on that. Okay, our home ground is obviously APAC. We made sure that how do we get direct content activation from low-cost carriers so that changes are actually possible online for travelers, because that's actually happening on the consumer websites in this region as well, right? So once we do that, the traveler is satisfied that I'm seeing the right content, I'm seeing the corporate negotiated rates, and when the same traveler is, let's say, talking to a colleague in the US, they are able to make sure that the tool also works in the West region as well, right? Mm-hmm. So we are trying to help the TMCs actually normalize the playing field, especially on the partner model side, right? Or even on the wholly owned model as well, where they are not able to find a tool that works for the most popular countries at least. We can never 100% make a fully global tool. I think, that's not the point, but, make it perfect enough for the popular markets at least. So, that's what the idea is, that integrate the right channels, the payment options, the taxation piece, so that the travelers see a like-for-like tool for all the popular countries at least. Yeah.
So again, it's meet the customer where they're at, right?
100%.
It's really, and everything's client-led, right, in terms of design.
It's listening to the customer. We got to listen to the customer.
So customers, do you get listened to?
Not all the time.
Yeah, no, but shout out to them. Yeah, they do.
It's hard. It's hard because I was just going to add, like you're saying, localization is important with language, with all of that. But at the same time, when you've been through a classic TMC setup and then moving towards a tech sort of focused travel provider, you see a lot of differences. You see that you need a partner that actually evolves with you, because technology is going to be a huge part of everybody's life. So, yeah.
I agree. I mean, yeah, TMCs are going to need that. TMCs, I mean, I think, it's important to recognize that if we're not moving ahead with technology, we're going to be left behind. So I think it's going to be relevant to partner, right?
Exactly.
Can I add something, please?
Of course.
Sorry, maybe I'm elongating this questions a bit, but so I like what Meena said, right? Work with the customer, take them along, right? So we really believe that in that as well, right? I mean, there was a customer specifically who was using us, left, right, and center in the APAC region, and they were working with a different TMC in the US, UK, and Europe, and they are like, we like the tool here. Can we extend the same thing over there, right? So how do you really do that when the TMC doesn't use us, right? So if we sign a direct contract with the corporate, we are able to normalize the platform over there as well by bringing in the multi-TMC strategy on our platform, so that the backbone is the other TMC over there. So that strategy 100%, we follow as well with the customers, where we take them along, yeah.
Thank you. Look, we're at almost at time, so I maybe just wanted to throw to you guys to share a golden nugget. So we've talked about redefining the TMC and booking tool landscape, and I think you've given some great insights to our audience today. But if you're to leave them with a golden nugget, what is it, Mina?
Me? It would definitely be a successful travel program is not created by isolation. So it's really understanding your travelers, engaging with your internal stakeholders and identifying what's important is always going to have a better outcome. So technology and service definitely have to work together. Otherwise, you won't have the right experience.
I think the most important thing for me right now is the user experience. If I create a very seamless and frictionless user experience when booking travel, it starts with booking the trip to your own trip and then when you're coming back from the trip. I think this is what I call an end-to-end solution. If the experience is seamless and frictionless, I think that will increase the adoption of the program itself.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
And because if people don't find any trouble in any parts during the process, they will be happy. They'll be more than happy to use it. But I don't want them to feel binded by the travel programs. Oh, am I out of program? Am I not being compliant? What would I get if I'm not compliant? But that's just subtly we are telling you listen to the program. But I just want them to feel that look, this is a very seamless program that you can feel at ease while being compliant to the program. That's my thing.
Got it. Thank you.
Me. I think for this region especially, like I said, the shift is happening that regional buyers are part of the global discussions when a global program, even at a company side, is kind of coming together. And I think that's more and more relevant as technology evolves, as content strategies evolve, that buyers from this region especially are more involved in discussions while creating that travel program. From selection of your travel partners, I think asking the right questions is absolutely relevant. You know what your travelers need, and at the end of the day, we have a common client, which is your traveler, that we all want to make sure is having that seamless, frictionless service and journey. And so, from our perspective, I think our goal is to have consultants that are tech forward, but are also able to provide that seamless solution during your travelers' journeys in the markets. So cultural fluency is something that we talk about a lot. But we're also talking about kind of VIP servicing in each market. Like every traveler needs to feel relevant, not the 80-20 ratio.
Thank you.
Yeah, obviously I was going to say meet where the consumers are, but we've spoken about that so much. But one thing I'd really like to say is like the one main word that we believe in a lot is agility, right? I think it's very simple as it sounds, but the reason legacy booking tools have started to fade away is because of slowest of agilities, right? So we really push our clients, whether that's TMCs or corporates, to really talk to us. Tell us what's the problem. We are here to build with you, right? From a product perspective, and not obviously build to a specific customer, but more often than not, customers have similar problems, right? And that's how we've grown, at least from our perspective, being very agile. And at least from a technology standpoint, the world is changing so fast. I mean, it's unbelievable that AI has been there. ChatGPT and similar tools have been there for over just 2 or 2.5 years now. But it's just part of our everyday lives. Like it's not even funny, right? There's gonna be more and more coming in the B2B space as well. Anthropic has announced that it's focusing on more B2B. So I think agility, the more you're able to quickly adapt to where the world is going and being still more consumer meet where the consumer is. So I think that's what I would say.
Thank you. Would you thank our panel for us?
Thank you.
Thank you.